Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the September 20th, 2023 Worcester Township Board of Supervisors business meeting. Would you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My name is Rick DeLello. I'm the chairman of the board. To my left is Lou Betts, who is our vice chair. To my right is Steve Quigley, who's our third member. Over on the side table, we have John Everts, who is our township engineer, and Bob Brandt, who is our township solicitor. And on the back table, we have Sean Halbum, who is our township manager, and Amanda Lafty, who is our assistant township manager. We also have Nicole, who is sitting in the front, who will be here for a budget presentation on the back end of our meeting. So, first and foremost, does anybody have any informational items for the board this evening?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this meeting is being video recorded for a future broadcast. Also, the Board of Supervisors met executively on August 31st to discuss litigation, on September 8th to discuss personnel, on September 11th to discuss personnel, litigation, and real estate, and on September 18th to discuss personnel.
Thank you, Sean. First item on our agenda is public comment. We do ask that you limit your public comment to 5 minutes. Does anybody have any public comment for the board this evening? Seeing none, we will move on. First item under official action items is going to be our consent agenda. First and foremost, does any board member wish to remove any items from the consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
Nope.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion for that.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, treasurer's report and monthly reports for August of 23, bill payments for August of 23, August of 2023 business meeting minutes, and the amount of treasurer's report, the bill payment of $440,000, $440,061.85.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we've got Resolution 2023-17, and this is a resolution to adopt the Act 537 Special Study for Tawaменsan Township. And John, if you could just give us a quick snapshot of that before we have a motion and proceed.
Thank you, Board Chair. So this is in regard to the sale of Tawaменsan Authority to PA Water Company. The special study was prepared especially because of the name change. There is no new sanitary sewer facilities. This is required by DEP to push the sale forward.
Thank you, John. And for those who are not aware, a portion of Worcester, particularly in the Milestone development, actually utilizes Tawaменsan for their sewer service, and they will continue to utilize that post-sale as well. So that's another element why we're sort of participating in this. Guys, this was really a procedural step we were required to do, as Bob had advised us some time back. I will certainly entertain a motion if somebody would like to make one, or if anybody has any questions for John or Bob first.
Any questions, Steve?
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-17 to adopt the Act 537 Special Study, Tawaменsan Township.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, next up is Resolution 2023-18. And this one's a bit of a mouthful, but the short version is it's going to be a resolution to allow us to ultimately give Bob and the team, the ability to transact relative to the Duchy Church. I'm going to ask Bob to just say a couple of quick words on what and how and
Sure.
his good lawyering and all that good stuff.
Well, I'm not going to say that, but we're pleased to be able to announce that we're going to go to closing tomorrow morning on the Duchy Church. And one of the things we're able to do, first we need to adopt a resolution authorizing the execution of all the documents required in connection with the sale. But most importantly, we will be filing what's called a friendly deed in lieu of condemnation, which saves the 2% transfer tax that would be applicable to the transaction. So by adopting this resolution, you're saving the transaction 2% of the sales price. You've done that before when we bought Fisher Road. I've done it everywhere. We have a municipality buying some property, so it's a common thing, and closing will be tomorrow morning, so.
So, and just for those who are, I think everybody in the audience is familiar, back in July, we authorized to execute on the agreement of sale, and this is sort of we're at the 1 yard line, tomorrow's the finish line to transact. We're certainly thrilled that we're able to do this. We talked quite a bit about it in July, and due to Bob's good lawyering, we're going to save 2%. Is that coming right off the top?
It was great lawyering.
Is that an official term? Good lawyering?
Good lawyering. So we're a nice, easygoing town. So ultimately, it's just, in many ways, it's just a procedural step so we can transact tomorrow morning. If anybody has any questions for Bob relative to that, by all means, now is the time to ask. If not, then I will entertain a motion on the resolution.
Any questions, Steve?
No, sir.
Okay, I guess I'll make an approval of Resolution 2023-18, authorizing the preparation, execution, and recording any and all documents, declaration of taking the deed in lieu of condemnation, the Duchy Church, 1581 Valley Forge Road.
Second the resolution.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we've got another motion. This is going to be a motion, or is that now? This one's being removed, is it not?
Yeah.
Bob? Okay.
Yes, that number 4 is to be removed.
So we're not taking anything with regard to 4. It was on the agenda, so we had to keep it there, but we're
Right.
proceeding past it. Got it. All right. So now with some additional good lawyering, we're going to have 4 motions. So for those who have been attending the past several months of meetings, we've had a series of transactions for the Valley Forge Road corridor. There's 4 more, in essence, where we've negotiated or worked out with the homeowners sort of the appropriate compensation for the small takings and easements that are necessary. Tonight we have 4 of them. I'm going to hand it to Bob so he can kind of consolidate them, and we'll do it as a single motion.
We're going to do it all in one, but I'll describe each of them.
Perfect.
First one is the Stables Community Association. There's a deed of dedication of 3,839.49 square feet, which is 1/8 of an acre, and a temporary construction easement, very small. That's the Stables Community Association. They've executed the document. The second one is Donna Jones at 2944 Woodland Avenue. That's 9,569.13 square feet, and that also includes a temporary construction easement and a tree taking. The third one is Pasquale Arias, A-R-I-A-S, and Sharon Catagnas at 1424 Valley Forge Road. That's 578.52 square feet, very small piece of ground again. And then finally, the number 8 on your agenda is Derek Snyder and Carrie Oceani for 1252 Valley Forge Road. That one's 3,867.75 square feet and a temporary construction easement of 309 square feet. Again, these have all been negotiated and are friendly, and it's taken some time. We're getting them due to the hard work of both your team here. Those are all in a posture for someone to make a motion to authorize execution of those documents. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Anything?
Any questions? I don't know. I'm good.
No, I mean, transactionally, these have been pretty consistent. It sounds like these 4 are just sort of the next 4 to fall, all falling under similar characteristics.
We're getting closer. We're getting closer with these. They've taken longer than you'd like, but it takes time. So,
So would it be adequate for us to say that we're going to make a motion?
Make a motion to authorize execution of all the documents referred to on your agenda.
Okay.
Make a motion to execute all documents for the Stables community, the 2944 Woodland Avenue, the 1424 Valley Forge Road, and 1252 Valley Forge Road as stated.
Perfect.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have a motion. And this one Bob's going to be excited to do. So this is another one.
This is, again, good lawyering here.
There we go.
This is another tax assessment appeal for 1543 North Trooper Road, and it looks like we're getting some money back, $15.38, instead of paying out $3.30 or something like that.
Let's spend it all in one place.
Yeah, so just needs authorization for me to sign that tax assessment appeal.
We good? So I'm gonna make a motion to approve and enter into settlement for tax agreement, tax assessment appeals 1543 North Trooper Road. As
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Anyone who's attended past meetings has seen we typically lose $2 or $3 in these. This one we're getting $15 back because somebody lost their appeal at the end of the day. So it has been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
That's it for me tonight. I could go if you'd like, but I'll stay.
I don't know, Bob. Other business, there might be something that we got to contend with there.
Thank you all.
So next item on our agenda is the 2024 budget. For those who were here last month, we had, nope, actually, did we have something last month? No, we did not. We talked about it last month, but this is the first sort of presentation of our budget that we will eventually approve in December. And I'm going to hand it over to Nicole, and the floor is yours.
Okay, so the first thing for the 2024 draft budget is taxes. The budget includes no new taxes and no increase to any existing taxes. Worcester Township's real estate tax rate is proposed to remain at 1/20th of 1 mil, which is presently the lowest municipal real estate tax rate in Montgomery County. And I expect that we will continue to have the lowest real estate tax rate in 2024. In regards to services, there is no substantive change to any township-provided services in the coming year. So what we're doing today, we'll continue to do tomorrow. Starting off with the general fund, first and foremost, this is balanced. At this time, the EIT, which is our primary revenue, is projected to receive $3.4 million. The budget includes $250,000 in real estate transfer tax. In the coming year, $575,000 is projected in real estate transfer tax for this year. This number assumes the transfers of existing real estate properties and no transfers of commercial properties or any larger tracts of land, which historically have occurred on an infrequent basis. As to expenditures, the budget anticipates an increase to health insurance premiums, and the amount of that increase will be calculated at the time that DIVIT confirms the amount of the rate stabilization dollars available for use. The budget includes a 5% increase to our annual operating contribution to our volunteer fire department to $184,696, and it retains a capital contribution to the fire department in the amount of $172,000. This number does not include the cost of workers' compensation coverage that is provided by the township as is required by state law, nor does this number include the Act 205 pass-through aid to the Department's Relief Association, which is budgeted at approximately $102,000. In addition to providing financial support to our volunteer fire department, the township is working to support those employees who serve as volunteer firefighters during weekdays when the department is in most need of help. For many years, the township has permitted its employees to respond to fire and other emergency calls during the workday. Lastly, the general fund will transfer dollars to the capital fund at the end of next year. This revenue will provide for needed capital projects like our annual road program. The transfer amount will be refined in the coming weeks as we adjust the budget to reflect receipt and expenditure estimates. But at this time, the transfer is projected to be around $536,000. For the capital fund, we will undertake sizable capital projects in the coming year. At the top of this list is the annual road program. The township will continue to provide an augmented resurfacing program, which will help to keep our roads in good condition, maximizing the useful life of the network. The capital fund will provide $656,000 towards the road program, which, when coupled with dollars from our liquid fuels fund, will provide an estimate of $1 million to the road program in 2024. Remember that this does not include soft costs like design, bidding, and inspections, or the many smaller fixes made by our Public Works Department throughout the year. The capital fund will also provide for the replacement of public works vehicles and equipment that have reached the end of their useful life. This includes the replacement of a 2012 pickup truck and a 2000 dump truck. For the sewer fund, in 2017, the township contracted with a new wastewater operator, and since this time, operations at our 2 wastewater plants and 6 pumping stations are running very well. As to the sewer rates, the budget presently includes a 0.5% increase to residential rates in 2024, which translate to approximately 2 cents per month increase for each home on the township system. A 0.5% increase to commercial rates is also proposed. The sewer fund provides $65,000 for capital improvements throughout the coming year. Just like our roadway network, the sanitary sewer system requires regular upkeep to maximize the useful life of its many components. For the liquid fuels fund, annual increases in the liquid fuels allocation under Act 89, the so-called gas tax bill, ended 2 years ago. Since this time, the township's annual allocation has decreased by 3% when controlled for the roads added to our inventory. The estimated 2024 allocation is expected to be received by this month's end. Next steps, the township will continue to monitor our receipts and expenditures and make adjustments to the budget where warranted. We'll include new numbers like proposed insurance premiums and the estimated liquid fuels allocation when the numbers are received. We will then present the budget again at the October 18th business meeting. The budget will be presented once again in November and advertised for a 20-day public inspection period, and a public hearing will be conducted in December. That's it.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm going to make a couple of comments, and then I'm going to ask if the board has any questions and different things. But I want to highlight a couple of things that Nicole said in terms of, so our budgeting process is a living and breathing and sort of working process year-round. What you see here tonight is the first presentation in public for ultimately what has been a years-long sort of process of managing what we spend, how we spend, what the revenue resources might look like, and we're constantly sort of modifying and adjusting throughout the year so that when we get to September, we have a pretty good grasp of what we've spent year to date, what we anticipate for the remainder of this year, and then ultimately what we envision going forward. Certainly, it's always a goal to not raise any taxes. We're very proud of the fact that we have the lowest municipal tax rate in the county. We've had that for some time, and that's certainly a source of pride. I want to commend the staff for the work that they do in digging into every bill and every piece of expense and every piece of capital improvement and all the areas to make sure that year after year we're able to continue to do what we do. So as Nicole said, there's no substantive, I'll have to say that word 3 times fast, change in the services that we're providing. Certainly one of the goals we want to make sure we're doing is we're not taking away services. One of the challenges of a lot of neighboring communities is they have funding issues, programs get taken away. Our goal is always to sort of be conservative and make sure that we can maintain the level and then add to that as residents sort of dictate we should. You know, ultimately one of the ways that we go about doing that. She mentioned some things with the fire department. One of the goals of this board has been certainly to be more structured and codified, is the term we sometimes use, with our volunteer fire department to make sure that we're funding them appropriately. We all know that they just recently received Ladder 83, which was 2 years in the making, and it was a substantial contribution by the township to make sure that happened for the volunteer group. Still a win for us. You know, we're still that it's a volunteer group that's growing, that's expanding. I know Lou's talked about it a bunch of times. Steve has talked about it a bunch of times. They're really an asset to the community, but we want to make sure we're doing right by them, both in dollars and in every other kind of support that we can provide. And ultimately, that's reflected in this year's budget, past budgets, and budgets going forward. But ultimately, I think we do a pretty good job with that. The process tonight is the first go, and certainly I'll turn it to Steve and Lou to add their thoughts and comments. It'll get presented again in October, presented again in November. At that point, we'll make a determination to advertise, and then we'll adopt it in December. So we basically have another 3 months to sort of fine-tune it, which we'll continue to do, and then we'll pass it and keep rolling forward. So I'm going to start with you, Lou. If you have any questions, thoughts, comments you want to throw out relative to the 2024 budget.
No, but I think Nicole has a good handle on that. I think we're spending we're doing well, and we're trying to balance our budget, and I believe the fire department is under control, and they did purchase a new truck, so she's keeping our spending under control, so I think we're doing pretty well.
Mr. Chairman, I think the staff's done an outstanding job with the budget again. Congratulations to them. I will comment on your comment about is essentially a live working document that it changes. We're very fortunate in our township that we have some extra money in the general fund and other funds that we can transfer in case a unknown expense comes up. And that's why we have to be very careful with the money we have. A lot of people think we have a lot of money in the bank and we do a lot of different things with it, but we have to be cautious with our spending, and I think the management of the township has done that, as well as the supervisors overseeing that in the past, and that's why we've accumulated some extra cash in the bank. So if an unknown expense comes up, we're able to carry that. So it comes with, good financial management. So I think it's a budget we can live with. We've added some money to the firehouse, the volunteers there, that they work hard there. So I think it's money well spent. So overall, I'm fine with the budget as it is right now.
Perfect. So again, Nicole, we're going to hand it back to you. I know you're going to make some adjustments. We're not adding anything to your plate tonight, but certainly if the board has other wishes a month from now, we might. But ultimately, we'll stay the course, and we'll look forward to next month's presentation with the adjustments from some additional actual numbers that you'll have to add into the mix. The one last thing I will say is that, like everybody else, we certainly saw expense pressures this year. Nicole referenced some of the items briefly in her presentation, but certainly some of the costs to the township have gone up pretty significantly, particularly around matters of insurance. And I think if anybody's been following the news, you're hearing that insurance companies don't want to insure people anymore. And certainly we're seeing costs escalate there in a lot of areas, and we're doing our best to sort of mitigate those. She referenced Divot, which is a consortium that we participate in that helps sort of get good rates for a lot of things. But, we're seeing the same kind of pressures on expenses that everybody else does as, both individuals and community members. We're seeing them as a municipality as well. So I'll hand it back to you, and I thank you for tonight's presentation. Good job. So next up, we have other business. You may have noticed we had some visitors that drifted in right on time, right on schedule, as if they had been queued to be here. So the township's received, this this is I think the third year, Steve, you might remember better than I do, but we received a request from FC Monco, which is a youth soccer group, in order to have temporary lights in Hebner Park. And the short story is over. Certainly, it sort of started at COVID and then started to sort of feel like a pretty good idea that there's a series of several weeks where, as we see looking outside, that it gets dark a few minutes sooner every night. So the request has been made to have some temporary lights structured in Hebner Park really through the sort of the end of the soccer season due to, we've got a community that loves soccer, and we want to support that certainly, but ultimately that's been the ask. We asked to get it sort of put on our agenda so the board could discuss it. I know in the past we have not had a concern with this after, I personally don't have a specific issue at all with it, but I want to certainly allow for both my board members to comment on it, and then certainly if anybody in the audience wants to share their thoughts or comments on it before we would ultimately, give it approval one way or the other. So I'll hand it left or right, whatever side works best, so that you can add any comments you would like to.
So I'm in full approval of anything in youth sports, and you're right, this does get dark, and being in Popcorn football, we had the generators over in Lower Province at the time. Keep these kids busy, keep them moving. So anything they need, I'm in full cooperation.
Mr. Chairman, I'm a few years removed from, I guess, these events of the kids, but the problems haven't changed. It gets dark, starts getting dark earlier. Parents have to work, they have to commute, they have to get home and try to attend these events. So I think it's a good asset for the people in the community. You want the kids to be active in the community, to get out of the house and, engage in activities with other people in the community. And it's good. It's good all around. And I think they're temporary lights, as he said. They've been honest. They're on wheels. They can move them as needed, as long as the trash and stuff is picked up, which I'm sure they'll do. The water bottles and things are there. So I don't really see a problem. I think it's really helping out the youth of the community and the volunteers that have to try to find a place, a field to put these kids. So I'd rather have them out running in the fields than staying at home doing nothing. So I have no problem with it.
That sounds good. So, Bob, do we need to do this as an actual motion at all? I mean, we just wanted to have the opportunity if somebody had any thoughts
We
on
actually
it.
did this the right way. These folks put together a nice petition and are here, for that. It's not anything that you need to make a motion. You can just direct staff to coordinate the erection of the lights and just do it with a letter from your manager and staff to them. So
Sure, I know they had discussed sort of a location, or previously there'd been some conversation about location and that sort of
that's
stuff.
not something the board needs to get involved in.
Okay.
I think just your comments that you're supportive of that and the manner in which these folks did that is the right way to do it. So that's all
Okay.
you need to do. Okay.
So, Pete, do you want to say a word or two? I certainly would love to get your input, and just wait. Yeah, hold on. I'm going to ask you to sign in.
Okay.
Get in. So we actually are recording the meetings. We want to make sure we get you sat down and make sure you got a glowing green light and pull that mic right up close to you so that we can get you on the recording.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me okay? All
Yes,
right.
sir.
So first off, thank you for the kind words. FC Monco is an ever-growing organization. We currently have about 650 kids running through the program. Those kids are out at night, every night of the week we're training and practicing. We have, heard in the past of some of the concerns, and I have to give all the credit to these four. They humped the street and knocked on every single door and did all the talking themselves. So I didn't, go up and talk to most of the parents or the families. So these four are the ones that really kind of did all the heavy lifting. So very grateful to have these four, in the program. We did have a petition signed. We went all up down Sheafley Road, all up and down Hebner, up and down Hollow, and up down Dobrook. So every actual household that would be backed into this or affected is aware of it and has signed the petition of approval. So we just wanted to make sure that you understood the depths that we went to. This will be temporary from September to November. Then we move over to the high school as soon as the high school soccer season's done. That's our next step will happen in November. So just wanted to kind of put in the record, the lovely work that these four did, and then obviously, leave you with this signed petition.
Thank you, Pete. We appreciate it. And if you could just give your name, you say your name on the recording if you don't mind.
Pete Maxwell, president of FC Monco.
Perfect.
Pete, question for you. Do you have any other facilities or fields that you use besides this, where you practice, where you have lights?
So no, we typically would do something at Red Tail Park, but Red Tail Park is going to go under construction to be reworked. So we're not able to use the lights over there. East Mount Kirk doesn't have lights, so we are actually without lights right now in any facility, any field.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you much, Pete. We appreciate it. And nice work back there, girls. This is how you get things done in government. Good job.
Thank you all. Appreciate it, and I'll leave this with you.
So I had one other item that I wanted to bring up under other business, just sort of, so we've had a couple of, so Sean and I have had a couple of meetings in the community over the past month or so. We were over at Meadowood, we were at Stony Creek Farms, and just out talking in the community. We know we have the Pennsylvania State Police is where our policing takes place. And I wanted to just sort of bring up, one of the things that's challenging, we're seeing is kind of challenging, is residents not really fully understanding how the Pennsylvania State Police, sort of how we should interact with them. We had, an item got raised regarding noise over at Stony Creek Farms, and there was some question to sort of what we could or couldn't do, or what a resident might do. And I don't have a specific plan that I want to present, but I wanted to sort of raise the topic of just how we maybe could do a better job of sharing, communicating with residents, sort of what your steps should be. If you encounter events because typically what happens is on a weekend, there's an event that has noise, and then somebody who doesn't know quite what to do about it. And then we get a call Monday morning that says, can you sort of retroactively solve a police problem, that happened Saturday night, which we can't, or just, general safety reminders. There were a few times across the summer, not just in Worcester, but in various communities where you had crimes of opportunity. You leave a car unlocked, somebody's taking wallets out of the car, or anything of value gets left in the car, and just whether there's any thoughts that we might have as a board where we can just sort of be a better source of communication to residents with safety reminders, or just here's what to do if this happens. It was sort of, we got hit with the questions and we didn't have great answers. I know Sean has talked to our liaison with the state police a couple of times, and I'm just more generally thinking, is there a better way that we can as a group sort of be communicating that out to the community?
Rick, looking at the state troopers report, it's really grown. I mean, it used to be 2 pages, 3 pages.
Right.
Now it's up to 9 or 10. So the state police have been very active in the township responding to calls. And before we jump to any conclusions, I don't see any of them coming from the newer developments. A lot of them are more on a lot of the rural roads within the township.
Right.
Or along Skippack Pike. But it's growing. I mean, the presence of the state police in Worcester responding to calls, it's grown quite a bit. That being said, your comment gives me a segue into our park system. I know, I think 3 or 4 years ago, my daughter was at the park with my grandchildren, and her car got broken into. And at that time, I had mentioned about security cameras in the park. And just recently, we had another break-in where someone associated with one of the teams
Right.
went to his car to retrieve something, forgot to lock it, and within a short period of time, it was broken into. I think security cameras are something that as the township grows, a few cameras can capture an awful lot of things going on from a distance if we install them in the correct place. And there's camera professionals out there that'll come in and give us some kind of presentation to the office staff. I think it's important. We want the people to come to the parks and feel secure with their cars from being
Right.
broken into or things stolen, and just even the overall security of the people, with children there, that it gives the parents a little more security there to see what happens. So I think it's something we can talk about in the future, but I think some type of security system,
Right.
a couple cameras, even the back part of the park will cover the whole thing. You can at least get an idea who the perpetrators are. So I think it's something possibly in the future we can budget for and look into.
Sure. Okay. You got any comments?
I do. We have cameras on the entrance, I believe, to Hebden Park?
Sean, we do have something there, right? Maybe you could comment on that?
We do. The entrances are covered. In the most recent case, we checked, and it was not in a spot that cameras were covering.
So my question would be, do we need to install additional cameras, more signage to make whoever aware? Apparently, there was an incident in the park.
Right.
And I know there's been in the past, I know my niece was one of them, they smashed her door glass and emptied her car. And that has happened in the past, but we're never gonna stop it all, but I think cameras will identify, and I believe if we have some more signage to maybe address it, I mean, it couldn't hurt. I mean, I don't think it's a
Right.
big expense, but we already have a camera system, additional cameras would be a good idea. I'm not on that, but if that's our concern.
A follow-up to Mr. Liu's comment, it's amazing how often private cameras are involved in solving crimes. The state police know where they're at, and they check, they can find cars in and out, the time frames and things. So I could be used for a multitude of reasons. I know we have them at our farm, and
Right.
the state police come in and check them quite a bit, looking for certain cars going up and down Valley Forge Road. So you can, a decent camera can capture vehicles from, 100, 200 yards. And our park system isn't that big out there where the cars are parked. So I think it'd be money well spent.
Okay. So no exact directive, Sean, but certainly if you could maybe pull some information together or potentially look at a work session where we could have a presentation to talk just a little bit further about that. I do think it's also might make sense we do the peak of the week every Friday, adding a couple of things maybe into that email communication. It's just for, gentle reminders about locking doors and most of these are unfortunately crimes of opportunity. Somebody just sort of lurks about and sees something and they sort of act on it. But appreciate both of your comments on that and just something for us to sort of add to the mix going forward.
Absolutely.
So does anybody else have any other business they wish to bring before the board?
Nope.
Okay, then we've got public comment. If anybody wants to have any final public comment for the board, now would be the time. Seeing none, motion to adjourn. Thank you all for coming.